All right, you're all set.
Silenced. Good evening. Today is January 11th, 2024. This is the policy committee meeting for the Newburgh Large City School District. Hand it on over to Mr. McCoy. Sorry, Mr. Forget.
Good. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This evening we have two policies and a hopeful planning session on the policy review team. So our first item is an item called workplace violence prevention. This will be a new policy. What you have in front of you is the New York State School Boards Association draft policy that our attorney has reviewed, Margot May, and supports. For those of you that don't know, I'll just read a little quick snippet of this, and then Mr. McLemore is going to take over. So the workplace violence prevention in public schools was created to help prevent workplace violence in public schools. On September 6th, the governor signed legislation amending the workplace violence prevention law, extending coverage to elementary and secondary public education that was previously exempted. This was done by removing the exemption from the definition of employer in the law. As of January 4th, 2024, covers public employers include public school districts, New York City Public Schools, BOCES, and county vocational education and extension boards. The employer's policy statement that you're going to review tonight must be completed within 30 days of the law going into effect, which is February 3rd, 2024. The risk evaluation and determination must be done 60 days of the law, which would be March 4th. The workplace violence prevention program must be completed within 75 days of the law going into effect, which is March 19th. And the employers must be in full compliance with this regulation within 120 days of the law, which is May 3rd. So we're on a timeline now that this particular policy be adopted by our Board of Education. I ask that after Mr. McLemore speaks on behalf of this policy, that the board, this policy committee, make recommendation that it be adopted on first read this evening. Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mr. Forget. So what I'll try to do is just give you a synopsis and some of the things that Mr. Forget has already stated will probably be restated. So in 2006, the New York State enacted legislation regarding public employers that they would implement programs to either prevent or minimize the workplace violence. So in that initial legislation, school districts were carved out of that. And so on September 6th, 2023, the governor then signed legislation amending that enacted legislation in 2006, stating that workplace violence prevention law will now cover school districts, public school districts such and BOCES and charter schools. So Ms. Forget talked about the 120 day, it becoming effective, which would be January 4th, 2024. So in short summary, workplace violence is any physical assault or act of aggressive behavior occurring where a public employee performs any work-related duty in the course of his or her employment. And then it gives, there are examples of workplace violence, an attempt or a threat, that could be verbal, it could be physical, any intentional display of force. It talks about physical contact, whether it was consent or without consent. It goes further to talk about possession of a weapon on a municipal property. Then it expands it and then talks a little bit more about stalking an employee with the interest in causing fear of physical harm. The law also talks of, it gives six key components, I'm sorry, to the law. It talks about the workplace violent policy that must be adopted, developed, and it must be posted in places where people can see it. Just can't be in an inconspicuous place, but where public notices are held. Then it talks about the risk evaluation and determination. Looking at those places in the workplace that might pose harm to employees. The third component is the program itself. How will the district develop a program? What is that program going to look like? The fourth component is employee training. So how are we going to train all of our employees? How are we going to provide them with the information that is needed so that they can be aware of workplace violence? And then, of course, there's always a piece where there's record keeping. We got to keep detailed and accurate records of workplace violent incidents. Where will it be housed? What system will it be housed in? And then the sixth component is employee reporting and workplace inspection. For example, the incident happened, but where did it happen? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Who witnessed it? Who was a part of it? So there's all of those components that must be documented and housed in a system. And that is the basis of this workplace violence policy that must be adopted by the board.
So Dr. Campbell has assigned this responsibility to the Human Resources Department, as well as to our Director of Safety and Security for the district. They will be the two divisions within the district that oversee this particular work, and we'll keep the board updated as to the progress we're making.
Okay. Board members have any questions in regards to this?
Is there a timeline?
There is a timeline, and there's a timeline. I don't have it with me, but there's a timeline that is outlined that we're supposed to begin meeting to have a committee, whatever committee that is going to be part of. And then there's going to be, must be a development of a guidebook for the workplace violence prevention program. So there is a timeline. There is.
The policy has to be fully enacted by the beginning of May. So fully enacted. So the policy, the review team and all of those things have to be in place. But we can't act on it until you adopt it as policy.
Okay, Mr. Berger, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, so you'll need a consensus from this committee. Are you in favor, Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Walking off. Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Yes, so I'm in favor also. So, next item, please.
Thank you. So the second item is policy number 9501. Thank you. 9501, non-represented employees. For those of you that don't know, we have the NASA unit, which is the administrators unit. We have the NTA, which is the Teachers Association. We have the NTA Teachers Association. Teacher Assistants component of the NTA, and we have the substitute for teachers. We also have the Civil Service unit, which is the bargaining unit that represents the civil service employees. There are a group of individuals that are not represented by a bargaining unit, and they are not part of the executive team, which are contracted with the board. So these are individuals that are confidentials. The district clerk, the treasurer, the executive director of facilities, some of the confidential secretaries that work for the superintendent and the assistant superintendents. These are all non-represented employees. The one employee that we need to discuss this evening is the director of the Newburgh Free Library. On the board agenda this evening is the SMOA for the civil service organization to adopt their new contract because they ratified. So we're hoping that that passes. Within that, it talks specifically about the employees that work in the Newburgh Free Library. Because the Newburgh Free Library is open all year long, those employees work all year long. Those employees don't get the week off for Christmas because the library is open. They don't get the week at Easter or spring recess because the library is open. In order for us to allow them an optional day for working during that week, the civil service bargaining unit has it embedded in their contract. Because Mr. Gawker, our Newburgh Free Library Director, is part of this particular policy, we need parallel language in this policy so that if Mr. Gawker works during the week of between Christmas and New Year's, we have the authority to give him another day off with the authority given to us from the board. So that is the only change you see here. And it is basically a technicality, but we want to do things by the book and make sure that everyone's authorized to do this.
Board members, any questions? Ms. Paletti?
No.
Mr. Bergerell?
No.
Okay,
Read and adopt.
reading it out.
Read, please. Good, because he's taking off next week. The last item is the policy review team. So we've had several conversations about this. This is a contract that we entered into with the New York State School Boards Association 2 Decembers ago now, December 2022. So we contracted with school boards, and school boards is going to do a comprehensive review of our current policies and make recommendations for updates based on law and regulation. And, you know, common practice that is occurring across multiple school districts in New York State as well as the country. So there's a system that we need to get going as soon as possible so that we can get this accomplished within a 3-year period. So they basically take a section of the policies. So for example, take the zeros to 1,000s. That's the philosophy, goals, and objectives part of the policy department. So when they take the zeros, they review them, they send them to us. So let's say we submit them in January. We've already submitted them, by the way, but I think we have to submit them again because of possible changes or updates, and I don't want to get this mixed up. So we send them in November, they'll turn them back within a month to us. We then have to have a policy review team take a look at the changes they're recommending and Newburghize them, right? Make them appropriate for the school district by which we work. Because there may be things that the New York State School Boards Association is not aware of, such as contractual things within our bargaining units, such as local laws that they may not have awareness of, or, you know, things that are unique to Newburgh. So this team goes through those policies and says, okay, we agree with what school board says. This makes sense for Newburgh. And then we would then take it to the full policy committee for their review, because the policy committee is truly the policy committee that makes the recommendation to the full board. So it starts with the review team. Review team takes a look at what school board says. Step 2 goes to the policy committee. Policy committee says, nice work, hopefully, school policy review team, or we have these questions, go back to the policy review team, hopefully getting through the policy committee to the full board for adoption. And then our policy is fully updated. That occurs, we do the thousands. We then move to, of course, the computer shuts down. We go to the 2000s to 3000s for school board governance. We go to 4,000 for instruction, 5,000 all the way through. If we start this, we're hoping that by June of 2025, we should be in good shape with the review of the policies, but we need to get this started. So with that being said, Mr. Howard has been selected, I believe, by board resolution to participate on the team. The president of the Newburgh Teachers Association will participate. representing the teachers. The president of the administrators unit will participate. And I believe it's the vice president of civil service will represent the civil service members. Ms. Peterson is getting us a parent, so we have parent voice on the review of those policies. And I will participate in the facilitation of it with Mr. McCoy. We need to know, are you guys comfortable with this process? Can we move forward with it? And Mr. Howard, we need some particular times that you might be available so that I can get in touch with the rest of the participants and get this work started.
Okay, I'll deal with the first question first.
Mhm.
Are you amenable to this, Mr. Beverly? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Okay, I am also, but help me out, Mr. Porter. So the money that we're paying NISBA to review these policies, and then for it to come back to Newburgh, for us to see if it's Newburgh guys,
Mhm.
why is that process in place? And I thought that's not why we're sending it to them, seeing how we,
They're updating it based on regulation and law.
okay,
They send it back down, we review it, we send it, I'm sorry, I did miss a step. We send it back to NISBA for a review after we've made changes, and then. it
Oh,
comes
okay,
back to
okay,
NISBA.
okay,
So,
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
okay. All right, so second, Mr. McCoy.
Some of the policies that we have are Newburgh specific, which NISBA does not have.
Okay, so
So
that's,
that's another component.
got
So
you.
there's policies that we're gonna send to them that they don't have that, like a file that they can just pull. So they're gonna review Newburgh specific policies, send it back to us. And then that's when Mr. Ford is making sure that they reviewed them properly so they keep this Newburgh specific stuff still in there.
Okay, and last question on this, Mr. Ford. So does SED supersede Newburgh law? Or how does that work?
Does education.
So a policy, if we say we want a policy specific what SED says, based on the regulation, based on our interpretation of this is how this policy should read.
You must follow state ed regulations.
So they do
or laws.
supersede.
Apps.
That was my
We do not have
question.
the
Okay,
authority to do that.
okay,
We're governed by this commissioner.
that's what I thought. Okay. Any other questions, board members?
No.
Okay, what did that answer your two questions? And you and I get together and I'm flexible, so,
I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware, so I'll reach out to you tomorrow.
okay,
We'll come up with a couple days each month.
okay. Any other items?
That was completed. Thank you.
Board members, anything else you would like to discuss in regards to policies?
No.
Mr. Dogarelli? Okay, move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.